Disclaimer, this is not an educational video. I'm just an idiot trying to fix my car.
Hello, before we start today's video, we're at This Museum's Not Obsolete and we are in front of the microfiche viewer. Ooh. Yeah, they used to be everywhere. They were the document storage of the future. I guess you could say internet killed the microfiche star. They were able to shrink down and squeeze multiple documents onto a single piece of photographic film, which drastically reduced the sizes of collections of things like schematics, newspapers, and in the case of what I'm holding in this hand and why we're in this video talking about this, is car parts. Right here we have unipart photographic slides of all of the parts for a classic Mini. So yeah, if we have a look on here, we can find all the parts that we need, and this is going to come in handy when we do this video. Anyway, let's have a look. Oh, hello, how's it going? I didn't see you there. Since owning this, it's been nothing but a headache. There are small spells between the headaches of smiles when you get to drive it and it's actually working. For instance, when I drove this yesterday to go and get an MOT test. And yeah, surprise, surprise, it failed. Looking at it, it actually looks quite nice, doesn't it? You wouldn't assume that they had a load of problems. Well, it seems that the MOT inspector yesterday went through this car with a fine tooth comb, or if to be more precise, a blunt flat blade screwdriver. Anyway, we get to the biggest point here, and this is why it's failed, is the subframe corroded and seriously weakened offside rear. Ooh, yeah, that's why it's in pieces back here. What's going on? Right there is the rear subframe. What is that? Well, with the Mini, like a lot of other cars, the body isn't literally just plonked on top of a long chassis with the wheels on it and stuff. The body acts as the middle of the chassis. At the front, there is a subframe, which is the front half of the chassis that holds the engines and the wheels together. And at the back, there's that thing, the subframe, the back of the chassis, that holds the wheels and the suspension to the back of it. And what this bullet point is alluding to is a few holes in that thingamajig right there. In fact, now I've removed it, I have found out there is more holes in there than in my favourite pair of boxer shorts. So earlier, I jacked up the car, yanked off the exhaust, and because some of the bolts are inside the boot, I had to repatriate the petrol tank and then try to undo the bolts that connect the subframe to the body. Usually corroded, and snap bolts are quite common. I thought I was being quite lucky. I managed to undo a couple without any problems. But then I found the ones at the back in the actual boot, they were just spinning. The threads were so rusted that it wasn't working. I had to drill the heads of the bolts off. After finally freeing the bolts and remembering to do a few other things that I completely forgot about, the subframe became separated from the car. So now it's out, we can take a closer look at it and see how much trouble we're in.
First, we're going to remove everything from the subframe, starting with the shock absorbers. Then we're going to remove the radius arms. I guess they're called radius arms because they're rad, because they hold the rear wheels in place, I suppose. Anyway, that part is part of the suspension. We'll have a closer look at all of that when we look at putting it back together, but let's get it to pieces first. That, amazingly enough, is the suspension. That rubber donut thing. I know, it's mad, isn't it? Anyway, let's get it all into pieces, give it a clean up on WD-40, but amazingly enough, this looked nice and clean. It looked like it hadn't been done that long ago, so I decided to just keep these complete and not refurb them because they were perfectly fine as they were.
Right, let's have a look at this crusty old subframe. Great, that's supposed to be there, that hole's supposed to be there, but this one, fair enough, whatever. And it's exactly the same story on the other side. Exactly the same hole. It goes through 2 sheets of steel, and it's right next to the thing. If you want to have a go at fixing this and keep it, then by all means comment below and you can come and grab it. Now, we all know practically that subframe was going to be fine for a good couple of years, but regardless, we need to pass the MOT, so let's have a look. And what? Oh, I've gone past it. There we go. Right, I need to order a 6292. Okie dokie. So I've bitten the bullet, so to speak, and spent 300 quid on a shiny new subframe. As you can see, this one has not got the holes there. This one is not as crusty as King Charles's boxer shorts. This one will almost definitely get past the MOT because it's brand new, of course.
Whilst we're adding wax to all of the cavities, I can talk about why I didn't try and repair the other one. Well, apparently, it's a bit of a sticky subject with MOTs. Technically, you can't patch subframes, so it depends which tester you get, I guess. You might pass, you might not. It's risky. I didn't want to risk it for a biscuit, so we're rebuilding it with a brand new subframe. Anyway, I put new seals on the radius arms, and also when I ordered the subframe, I saw these nice shiny mini fins. I just couldn't help myself. They got added to the basket. The magpie inside got the better of me. Anyway, we're going to put the subframe mounts together. That's these things. They're basically rubber with a metal around it, so it kind of holds together with a little bit of a squidgy feel. After you put it together, you bolt it onto the front like so. I know this isn't the correct tool, but it worked. So that goes on there, and then the back one's the same. It's got 2 rubber grommets inside. You squeeze it in, then you pop a big washer on and you pull it on, tighten it down. We're going to talk it all later, but first we need to put in the suspension. So we get that big old donut in there, plonk it on and pop in the high-low. That's the adjustable rod for the height of the wheels. It's an aftermarket thing. Anyway, that connects into that hole right there and acts like a squidgy lever for the radius arms. That's a very bad description. Anyway, we're going to replace this plastic housing and we're going to put it all back in together. This took a few tries. It was a bit fiddly the first time. After I got a hang of it, it was a lot easier, but yeah, it's going to take a little bit. You bolt this all together with the subframe bracket and it actually went together quite nicely. As you can see, it looks proper. But does it drive proper? We'll find out on the A212. The subframe fitting kit I purchased came with replacement braided hoses, so we're going to put those onto the brakes, even though they technically really didn't need replacing, but we may as well. Now we're going to put this funky thing in. This is the handbrake quadrant, and we'll look later at what this actually does, but we'll leave the mystery in the air for the rest of the video. Now time to add some more brake lines to the inside of the subframe. This is where it connects to the T-piece, so both of the brakes on the rear connect together. In order to put the other brake line in, I put this exhaust mount in first, so we knew where it needed to go, and then we brought it together, and that's going to bolt to the rest of the brake line and the rest of the vehicle. Make sure it's all nice and tight. You don't want brake juices going everywhere. This is all of the handbrake mechanism. We're going to attach all of this now, so we're going to put the handbrake cable through all of its bits and connect it up to the drum brakes. You connect it in there. Hopefully I got that the right way around. This is where it connects to the rest of the car. We put this fitting in, whatever name that is, you name it. I'm going to call it Tony, and then we're going to wire it to this big cable that connects directly to the back of the handbrake lever. It's amazing how all this connects together because it's not bolted together. It's just such a way that it's very hard to fall apart. Oh, don't forget this brake hose clip. It was hiding.
It's put together now, and yeah, the only thing left to do is just bolt it in. I think that's all we got to do is just bolt it together, bolt it in there, right?
Our cable tied the radius arms to the subframe, so when we turned it around the right way, the suspension didn't all fall to pieces, because it might do that. Anyway, after doing my best Homer Simpson impression, I got off it and popped the subframe onto the trolley that I made for it. But lo and behold, after putting the shock absorbers back on, I found a bit of a problem. It wasn't gonna fit. So I had to do a bit of remedial work, which completely removed the structural rigidity of the trolley. But we don't care because it's got under the Mini, which is great news. So now we're gonna jack it up. I used all of the jacks that I had in my personal possession to make it all line up. And then I used a bit of copper ease onto the actual bolts when I popped it in so it wouldn't get seized again. Well, it might do. Anyway, I hammered all of the back ones in place. The problem was I had to remove this radius arm because it wasn't completely lining up. So I decided to loosen it all off, get the bolts in, and then tighten it all up so it all kind of centres itself, you know, in a nice jiggly motion on the A212. We torque it up, shove the shock absorbers in, and oh no, what's happened? Shut up, you're moaning. Basically, when I was removing the subframe, the brake line was corroded and stuck, so it ended up snapping off. So we're going to remove the brake servo, which sort of is like a hi-fi amplifier for brakes. It sort of makes your feet bigger in a weird way. It gives us space to be able to remove the brake line. So I take the brake line from the whole bottom of the car. It actually came up in the MOT about the brake line, so I thought, screw it, I'm just going to do it. In hindsight, I really should have done this before the subframe because it was quite fiddly to get it around the subframe, as you can see. And there we go. I popped it in with a little bit of a wiggle because I read to do that somewhere, I don't know where. Anyway, we're going to poke the handbrake cable up through this hole, and that connects to the back of the handbrake lever like so. So when we lift it up, it pulls it along, and that pulls the cable. As you can see, that pulls it,
And then that pulls the handbrake quadrant. And then the handbrake quadrant pulls onto that. And then we got handbrakes. Lovely.
Then we put the fuel tank back in, get it through its blowhole again, and then we strap it in and then pop in the exhaust. A little bit of a wrestle with that always. And then, yeah, we're nearly done, but we need to address the other MOT failure, and that's this rubber thing right there, the steering rack gaiter. So we need to remove it from the drive hub, remove the steering rack ball joint thingamagod. Is it a tie rod? Oh, no, comment below. Anyway, we're going to remove the severely perished one, check the ball joint, add a bit more gunk, and then put a new one in. Wait a second, I think we're done.
Right, it's done now. We've got to take it to the MOT. So I've bled the brakes. I'm going to put the wheels back on, and we've got two hopeful outcomes. Number one, one, it passes with flying colours. Number two, they notice a mistake and, you know, I rectify it and take it back. What would suck is if I pass and there is a mistake and nobody has noticed and we lose the subframe on the motorway or something, but I guess we won't find that out until we lose the subframe on the motorway. Anyway, let's get it on its wheels and on the road.
Let's put these big, stupid, oversized, tacky wheels back on and let's hope for a pass.
It's a bit slippery out here, but we've passed. It's an MOT pass. So I guess the next time I'll see you is when it breaks again. See you later. Oh, squeaky.
All in all, I'll consider this a bit of a success. We managed to get an MOT pass. Okay, it cost a little bit over 500 quid, but that included a completely rebuilt subframe with a lot of new parts, a brand new brake line, and I patched a couple of the bits of the underside with welding. You didn't see that because I thought it was a little bit boring, but you know, and yeah, we got it working. It took me about a month, but that's because I like working an hour here, an hour there, like 1 hour this evening, 1 hour another evening. But if you had all the parts and you knew they were all correct, you could definitely just get that done in about a day if you had your wits about you. Anyway, thanks a lot. We'll be back to the normal programs next week, but if you want to see what I've been working on and the machines that I'm building at the minute, then check out over on Patreon. And if you want to support, but also if you want to see more car videos, comment below. Toodly-doo.